Okay, so I will count and we do the clapping and then I count again for the intro.
Okay, sounds good.
And then we'll take it from there. I'm feeling very spontaneous right now.
All right.
1, 2, 3. Happy
Happy
time
time
zone,
zone, everybody.
everybody. Awesome. And happy new year because
We're off to a slow start.
yes. It's March already at the time of the recording. I don't know when this episode is going to be published. But
We're
it's
working
been a
on
while.
it. But
Yeah.
and we discovered that maybe we should talk about the struggle. So we're doing an episode on momentum.
Momentum, yeah. And yeah, we're not talking about physics here.
No.
We're not talking about velocity set in motion.
We find physics a wonderful metaphor for that kind of thing, though.
Yeah.
There are lots of physics concepts that work really well when talking about how daily life works. We love them.
I don't know the history of momentum, but I guess that's where the analogy comes from, or the word comes from, right?
Oh, you mean for physics? It comes from physics?
I mean, yeah, it comes from physics, the analogy to physics.
Yeah, but who knows? Sometimes if you look deeper into those things, you find out that physics actually got it from colloquialism other places. So you never know. I'd have to look into it to find out. And even then, who knows if it's written down? So it may not be available to find. And anyway, should we introduce ourselves on the podcast here?
Right, we haven't done that yet.
No, we have not.
So how do we usually do these things? I can't remember.
And we can just say, hi, I am the Unfiltered Universe, and this is Housemates for Life podcast.
Right, and and this is Matt from the Voices of Jarvis.
And this is a plural podcast by plurals for plurals. Anything else?
I think that was great.
Okay, awesome. I think we're great.
I think that was, yeah, I mean, we have to really consider our last recording dates back to, I think, September 2024.
Really?
Yeah, I know we
geez.
uploaded the episode much later at the end of the year, but I think we haven't been recording for a long while.
Yeah, okay. So that makes sense that we would be rusty.
Very rusty.
Very rusty. Okay, so yeah, in case you were wondering, we did not give up on the project. It's just we're dealing with life and the problems in momentum.
Exactly. And just here, in case anybody wonders, if we would ever stop the project, we would let the audience know. So if there's a delay, it's just that. We will come back at some point.
Yeah, and the whole point was not to be stressful about this. We want it to be a passion project. We want to love what we're doing. So we're not going to stress ourselves out for you guys.
Exactly. And we thought we'd talk about momentum today because that's what we've been thinking about the last couple of weeks. How can we get back? How can we get back our momentum for this project, for this podcast project? And it's not really motivation that's lacking. Like, I mean, we enjoy the project and we want to keep it going.
Mm-hmm.
So, but somehow else we needed to get our gears going, and we figured that planning anything ahead of time wasn't really doing the trick.
Yeah.
So we decided rather spontaneously, like last week.
Yeah.
You know what? Let's just record something, okay? Let's just sit down and record.
Well, and this gives us a chance to be real with our audience about, that these things happen to us too, and that it's relatable.
Yes.
Oof. Jarvis here's recovering.
Yes. Probably like since it's been September or so or whatever, since the last recording, our voice has changed a lot. But also it has changed a lot in this particular week because we had a cold. So this is how we sound right now. I don't know if we will sound like this in the near future again.
Maybe so. We'll see.
So what is momentum? um well, in physics it's taking an object that has a mass and, putting it into motion, right? And that needs some force, and also like stopping that object also needs some force, usually like friction, air resistance stops the object from moving. But if there's none, you just keep going, right? And that's kind of the thing we're talking about today, is like, how do you get yourself going? And I mean not like moving in a physical sense, but like doing things. Get yourself off the couch.
As I'm thinking about it right now, one of the most daunting things when you realize it's been a while since you've worked on a project you were doing previously consistently, you have that whole inertia thing that has to happen because it takes a while to get over the hump, or to change your attention and movement direction from doing whatever else you were doing or dealing with whatever else you were doing back into the project or whatever that you want to start doing or start doing again. I don't know if that is that clear as mud, right?
Yeah.
But when we were talking about physics metaphors, I find inertia a really good metaphor for that too, because it's that getting things moving isn't just actual physical movement, it's also mental and like project movement too. It does take extra effort to get over the hump to get started. And then the routine makes things easier if you can get back into a routine.
Yeah.
Generally, I mean, and we should make the caveat that, nothing works for everybody. If that doesn't work, if anything we talk about doesn't work for you, it doesn't work for you. That's okay.
Or works differently for you.
Yeah, you get to be uniquely you. We're not trying to discount other people's experience. We're just talking about our own.
Yeah. Speaking of which, we are plural, right? So,
Yeah.
what are your thoughts on momentum and plurality? Like, how does that play into your systemhood?
Um,
Putting you on the spot right now.
no, it's okay because we were already thinking about it. Um, it's it can be really hard to calibrate with everybody. Um, to try and make sure that we're trying to continue in the same direction because a lot of you know a lot of us switch in kind of joining things already in progress, so we'll be going a direction and we won't have any idea sometimes if that direction is part of a change in direction. So so we end up inadvertently fighting change because we weren't aware of the change that other people were trying to make. Is we'll be continuing the momentum we join with without understanding that we're actually fighting a change that the rest of the system is trying to make. And I'm not even necessarily talking about a life change or anything like that, but it can be. It can be something as simple as like, yeah, I'm just trying to just build up this routine again, and if it's making sense visually in my brain, it's very hard to put into words. But we end up fighting the efforts of other headmates if we're not calibrated on what we're all doing, if we are not all aware of the mission consistently, we can end up causing things to be harder than it would be if we were all working together to go the same direction. And of course, it's also complicated by not everyone's going to agree on what the stated goal is, even if we're all thinking about it the same. If we all agree on the same goal, it doesn't mean it means the same thing to everybody in the system. Because we forget about that nuance and dissonance in perspective. Because we just take it for granted. That's background noise. It's always there. It's constantly there. But then we don't even realize that we're like, oh my gosh, we're working at cross purposes here. Together we will get in that direction, but we're kind of fighting each other while we get there. And and it feels like wasted energy, but I think that's short-sighted of us when we think that way. It feels like wasted energy, but that wasted energy is actually doing something. Like, headmates think they're going in the same direction, but they're not. That distance is representative of something. There's something that they misunderstand about each other, that if we find understanding for what that is, then then we won't be wasting that energy in between. But that wasted energy is doing something necessary for the system. We just can't see what it is. So it just, being a system makes everything feel like we're going uphill way too frequently. Let's say it that way.
That actually resonates. like it feels like sometimes it's a superpower. Like we find compartmentalization.
You got it.
Is quite a good skill that we have, personally, at least in our system, when it works. When it works, when it should work, then it's great. But other than that, it just feels like a curse.
Oh.
Like at least a curse when you try to be a decent human being. I mean, if we didn't have to do that, then it would be just, that's just who we are.
And what do you mean by that? If you don't mind. It's like, where do you find yourself having trouble being a decent human being? Is it just that you want to be more snarky and you can't be, or because our experience of your entire system doesn't ever feel like you're anywhere close to not being a decent human being. So I just, I'm questioning that. I'm going to push back.
Well, maybe because we are very good at masking.
Maybe you're holding yourself to a too high a standard too, is what we're trying to say.
Oh, certainly. And I think even we had that thought today that I think my headmate Will had the thought today that I can't really put it into his words, but something like along the lines, he was like, oh man, I hate my headmates, well, jokingly, but oh man, I have these headmates and they usually appear in social situations and they raise so much expectations among other people, and then he has to live up to that expectation, and that's really exhausting.
Oh yeah.
And then I think maybe I'm just making this up right now because he said it, but I feel like he had a thought of that he's actually holding himself accountable to that high standard. He's doing that upon himself instead of just, oh, fuck it all,
Yeah.
I don't know if this makes any sense if somebody's outside of our system and doesn't regularly talk to us like you guys, I don't know if any of this conversation just made any sense.
Well, I just wanted to say that if anyone from that gets the impression that you guys struggle to behave like decent people, and I'm like, you might have to mask and those kind of things, but I guess we have a standard of what decency is that might be less strict or more strict. I don't know. Different, different
Yeah.
from what you guys are describing there, because it's like we think decent people have bad days. We think decent people don't always behave their best. We think, you know what I mean? It's like, but then again, maybe that's core personhood stuff, and just spoken language doesn't bridge that gap very well when we're trying to talk about these two things that we use the same words to talk about. And
Oh,
you know what I mean? So it's like we would, the behavior versus the person. And I don't think no one should have the expectation to be on their best behavior all the time. Period.
yes, yes, yes.
That's supremacist nonsense. Like, no, like nobody's perfect, and there should be no, that kind of thing. So that's what we were getting at. It's like, oh God, that sounds like an impossible standard. We don't even want to contemplate one of our friends holding themselves to an impossible standard. But then we realized that we were conflating something, and this is, again, it's a good thing to bring up when we're talking about momentum, because this is going to happen in our experience. Okay, this may not be universal, but that happens between our headmates all the time. It's like one headmate will be thought talking about something using the thought talk way we talk about this, right? And they will mean something very different from somebody else using the same thought talk, just like happens in English. We misunderstand each other even though we live in the same head, and even though we have, the same thought talk language, and the same cultural nuance of it too, because we're doing a lot of discovery of subsystem stuff right now, and we're discovering that the cultures of different subsystems will use similar to almost identical thought talks, but mean very different things once you get into the practical nature of what we're thinking. And it's just, that dissonance takes up energy in translation and miscommunication that does, in fact, hinder our momentum. Now, I don't know if that word salad made any sense to anyone. I don't even know if it made sense to us.
Yeah, and I guess clarifying everything, right?
Yeah.
And like resolving the miscommunication or misunderstanding takes time, and it takes away from, it makes you stop, right? And stopping and pausing stops your momentum, right?
Right. But it also, doing the work is valuable, because when you do the work, then there's less of that dissonance taking up energy, and more, confluence, I guess, of moving in the same direction. So anyway, it's just kind of interesting how, until you brought up this podcast topic, we hadn't really given much thought into how plurality can really mess with momentum. Because, it's like, I don't know if it's this way in your system, but in our system, someone's always dragging their feet. Someone is always scared of whatever it is we're trying to do, Someone's, always like, oh, I don't know, maybe, but I don't know. I don't think this is what we should be doing. I'm not so sure about this. Always. Someone is always like that. And no matter what it is.
Yeah, and if it's not fear, it's usually annoyance or like what's it called?
Disinterest?
Yeah, disinterest, and like I'm lacking the right word right now, but I guess you know what I mean.
Yeah. If it comes to you, it comes to you, though.
Mm-hmm. Like there's definitely almost always resistance. Like unless we are fronting all by ourselves, there's always a push into a different direction, whether it's backwards or a bit slightly sideways.
Distraction. Yeah.
Yeah, it's never the straight line that you want to go
Right.
as an individual.
Oh my gosh, yeah, we hadn't even really we hadn't focused enough to be able to see that. But yes, being pulled in a million different directions at once, it can be really hard to hold a systemic momentum in any one direction. And we personally have been super scattered lately for lots of reasons.
And yeah, and I can clear this CD. Nine. Oh no. What I want to say is I can see this clearly right now is that because so this is me Matt fronting right now pretty much like 90 95% me myself and I maybe. I'm not sure.
Jelly.
And yeah, but like consider this like the past half year or so, I feel like I was pretty much on the back seat. Well, not on the back seat, but pretty much always on the side seat and not so active. Like, and this is I think the second or third winter. Being aware of our system. Um, that I noticed that in the winter time, I'm just hibernating. I think like I'm still there as a handmaid. I like
Yeah.
I'm still the silly, goofy voice on the sideline, always. I'm not leaving, but I'm not active at front, and I don't really have that drive to be at front. I don't know, and it feels like since it's March right now, it's been some nice days, and we're doing a podcast, which is my thing. And really, like, just only for this recording, I'm like, oh, I'm here. I should be here. Hello. And so the contrast right now is very great. It's like from being like not there to being there and feeling my own personal momentum active in this body. It feels very different right now than it's been just an hour ago. So
Right. Yeah. Oh gosh, and we haven't even talked about, I mean, that we're seasonal too. I'm making a mental note for where I want to go from here. Um
just go for it.
oh, okay, well, it's just well, one, we wanted to talk about the seasonality of our system where yeah, we headmates, all our headmates kind of, we call it specialties, but we do have seasonal headmates that are spring, and so we're moving from winter people to spring people right now. And so the overlap leads to confusion. There's tons more activity in our system in the cusp between seasons than in the middle of seasons. So it kind of looks like a wave. There's a lot of activity, a lot of headmates active, which leads to a lot of momentum confusion, right? Because everybody's got their own agendas and their own thoughts and all that. So it's like it's harder to have consistent momentum aside from just getting through stuff in the cusp between seasons, and then we're a lot more steady in the middle, so it kind of goes in a wave. But then dramatic events, dramatic or traumatic, whatever, big events in life or the world throw some of that equilibrium off too, so we end up active the majority of the time. We don't want to act like we actually have smooth sailing very frequently. Um, but if we're going to, it's probably in the middle of a season when we've finally got everybody settled and situated, and we kind of have some idea what we're doing with our life, and then it'll go into chaos again in a few weeks. But it's like being aware of that seasonality, though, lets us take advantage of it, not just be hindered by it. Like, now the spring, we kind of vibe with the world in the spring, and we live in a temperate climate where the trees are starting to bud a bit, and so things are growing. Now's a good time for us to actually start projects and maybe meet new friends, that kind of thing. It's easier in the spring. um so going, finding what's actually happening in working with that, we find helps momentum a lot. Partially because we're realizing this right now as we're trying to explain it, is like partially because we don't have to hold it ourselves. We can place it in an external framework, right? And we find that utilizing external frameworks makes it easier for system calibration, because then we can talk about the nuances in our observation as a neutral thing rather than trying to hold the same space in the same consciousness thing. And I'm not sure if that makes much sense, but it does to us, because like we love having neutral territory to talk about things. It just makes it safer, because then your emotions are not taking the space somebody else's emotions need to be. And some of, a lot of the conflict kind of is emotional, even though I, intellectual or emotional, that kind of thing. But we were also realizing at the same time when we're talking about it, it's like, oh gosh, and momentum is also going to be impacted by the energy it takes to switch. Both to do the switching takes energy, but then reorienting yourself after the switch is going to take time and energy to do that. Unless the handoffs are really, unless, everybody's swimming exactly the same direction and then the switch happens, which I don't know about you guys, but I don't think that that's a thing that happens for us much at all.
I don't know if you're talking about intentional or unintentional switches, but we rarely ever lately try to switch intentionally. So for us, it usually goes with the flow, whatever the body needs right now, so it doesn't feel forced.
Yeah.
Or removing energy particularly.
That makes sense.
But while you were talking, we had a thought, and I think this is Will now. I mean, we are very, very co-conscious right now, but I thought I will talk about, because I had the thought. Because I remember you guys once telling us that moving from summer to winter, like going through fall season, and like talking about we're in the northern hemisphere, and as you said, temperate climate. So moving from summer to winter through the fall season is like, feels easier than moving from winter to summer, because fall is like going to bed and getting comfy and ready to sleep. While spring is more like, okay, sleep time is over, get out of bed, get moving.
Yeah.
So it kind of, on one hand it needs more effort, on the other hand I feel like nature and the weather around us makes it also easier to actually do the thing. But my thought right now was that I actually find it, and that's a very personal thing, I find it easier to do things in the morning, to like have a routine in the morning, and get all the to-dos done early in the day. And then sorry, as the day goes on, things become very unstructured and cluttered. Like, there are more chances of random bumps and encounters with people and unexpected changes happening throughout the day that just accumulates over the day. And by the end of the day, I'm just like, fuck it, I'm just going with whatever,
Yes.
But in the mornings, I feel like I'm more, it's like a restart, a reset, right? You wake up in the morning, every morning, at least for me, it's basically the same. So it feels like, okay, I get a reset, a new chance at life, basically. Before everything falls apart. I'm just over dramatizing, but you know what I mean.
Well, it's okay. And we do know what you mean.
And I just had this thought that it's very similar with the seasons. Like when you think about spring being the time where you wake up and get out of bed, it feels like the start of the year, to us at least, feels like, and it's a bit like also like having a New Year's resolution and stuff. It feels like, okay, now the year restarts. I get another chance to do all the things I want to do. Let's do it. And then as the year goes on and the months go by, things start to fizzle out and get deranged and everything. So by the time when we arrive in winter, I feel like I'm at the end of the day. Well, it's the end of the year, but it's the same vibe I have at the end of the day. I feel exhausted. I feel like too much randomness has happened over the year. I just need to fall asleep during winter and restart when the new year comes. Kind of. That was a long talk to make one single point, but I guess you get it.
Oh, we do. It's beautiful, actually. It makes so much sense. And we have, two comments on that. Is one, we did meet somebody one time who said that they feel exactly the same. I mean, we also feel we relate to the morning thing. Yes, getting up in the morning, we're most focused, we're clearest, and we get more scattered throughout the day. We did meet somebody who has the capacity to like just nap once they get too cluttered, and then they're fine after that, and they just move on. And I'm like, oh, nope.
Wow.
I know. It's just like, oh yeah, we just take a nap. I'm like, and then you function after that? Huh. How cool. No, if we take a nap and then wake up, the morning people are so disoriented. They're like, what's going on? Yeah. So I mean, it has worked occasionally, but there's no guarantee. That's not a viable strategy for success. It's like we could try it, but it's a crapshoot, right? And then the second point we thought of while you were talking about that was that, again, it emphasizes the point that sometimes having an external thing to external anchor, there we go, to the momentum structure or flow, is helpful. Like the end of the year, the calendar year, you don't have to hold that yourself, you don't have to create it, but it is something you can play off. Like the seasons, we don't create those, they just happen. We don't have to use our energy to make those what they are. We get to just react to them, and if we work with them when we can't do anything about them, we get to conserve our energy, be more efficient, all those kind of things, and we fight ourselves less if we lean into that stuff. So,
We feel like the episode has taken a lot more. I don't know. Don't want to say grander direction, but like we're a bit. I feel like we're talking very big picture right now, instead of like talking about anything that's actually practical, which isn't a bad thing. I think it's our shtick.
I think so too. I'm honestly very pleased. I hope you don't mind.
Us too.
Oh, good. No, we're so pleased. I'm so glad we got started and just tried, because I don't think I could have got here any other way. Rather than, I mean, we could have had the conversation. I don't think we needed to necessarily record it for it to work, but you know what I mean? I had to really be thinking about momentum in a plural sense in order to get to the points that we're making. So, anyway. One of the other, we'll quick talk about, it's like, so system stuff, sure, on one hand, but then life stuff on the other. Of course, we're going to be influenced, our momentum is going to be impacted. There we go, that's a better word. impacted by uh, how our family life is doing, how our social lives are doing, how our world is doing, all that kind of stuff. Because confusion, stress, misunderstandings, and all that stuff inside are going to affect momentum, and of course, outside are going to affect momentum too. And the more um, stressors or influences or people you have to take into account, the harder it is to maintain a individual, quote unquote, a systemic momentum for your system in the larger family system. You know what I mean? It's like it's so complicated because it's like, um, yeah, it's like when physical family members' needs are in conflict with the things you're trying to do. Of course, that messes with momentum because then you have to use so much energy in the negotiation of time and space and resources, not only with my headmates but with my family members, and just I it being having to put this into words to talk to somebody else about it. I'm realizing that we are too hard on ourselves. When I look at all of the things that we have to navigate in order to make all this work at all, um, yeah, it's understandable that it's going to be difficult and it's not going to work at all sometimes. And we are going to use this whole conversation as a little reminder that we need to be more gentle with ourselves. And then, as a result, we'll be a little bit more gentle on everyone around us too. But uh yeah. I don't know if you have more to add about that.
You gotta start somewhere, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
And yeah, we totally get that because since discovery, we've been removing ourselves a lot from social interactions up to being almost completely isolated at times socially. Because I don't know, every time we have to um, expose, I don't know if I'm choosing the right words here, but if we expose ourselves to social life, um, it's um, it's just so random. It requires, as you mentioned, so much negotiation.
Mm-hmm.
And after discovery, we felt like, okay, we need a timeout. We need to like get ourselves arranged somehow, among ourselves first and foremost, to even be in any way able to negotiate outside of our system.
Yeah.
And like we really feel that, like we feel things go very smoothly. We can have our momentum, our direction, as a system collectively, when we're by ourselves. It's so much smoother than when we bump into others on the outside. Not really sure how to make a point here, but I just wanted to throw that in.
Yeah. Sure. But absolutely.
Basically, I just wanted to validate what you just said. Um, you're doing a hard job juggling yourselves and family life.
Oh, thank you. Thank you very much. Because yeah, we forget how hard the job really is because we've just been expected to do it pretty much our whole life, right? And so we take ourselves for granted. Why are we surprised that everyone else takes us for granted too? Um, but we're getting better about it. We're getting awareness. One thing we're thinking about here is that since discovery, we have a much deeper relationship with ourselves, right? We have a much clearer view of a lot of stuff that's going on with us and that we're up against and all that, which leads to us just in general being a deeper person. Um, and that deeper level, I find, is so much harder to maintain in relationships. Like, being deep means that, in other words, to talk to other people on our level, we have to get to a deep level, or we have to mask shallow. And either of those takes work, right? It takes work to calibrate. Well, to be deep, we find you either have to, it takes a lot of work to get a relationship to a place where the relationship is safe to be deep. And then you also have to hold a safe space for that deepness. Because we find it, it's like, I don't know, the words are failing us at this point. So, it's not practical to interface with other human beings on a deep level most of the time. Most people just do not have the time, patience, or space, spoons, to be deep. So we end up having to mask shallow. And masking, of course, takes energy, and every bit of energy you're using to do something besides what your big goal is eats momentum. It eats the energy you could be using for momentum. So, isolation makes sense.
As you were saying this, we also thought that at the moment, to us, it feels like what you say, masking shallow. In order to save energy, we usually drive on autopilot, basically.
Mm-hmm.
And it's literally like our metaphor for it, but it really feels like it sometimes. Like, okay, we're driving this collective bus, right? And, when we're in a situation where we need to mask shallow, we're like, okay, autopilot, we're just leaning back and let this car or bus drive itself and just watch.
Enter conversation about weather.
Yeah, exactly. And then it still drains our mental energy in the sense of what's life fulfillment, what does life mean to you if you only talk about the weather, right?
Mm-hmm.
So in that sense it drains us. But it's also like, if it's not too often, we found that it's kind of taking a holiday from ourselves, basically. Like, we also try to look at work in a similar way. Like, I mean, work is work. Nobody really likes doing it. Or, I mean, a few lucky people actually have a job that they really, really are passionate about. But if you're a regular person, quote unquote, then usually work sucks most of the time, or isn't really the most enjoyable thing in your life. But we try to look at it, okay, when we're at work, we're basically just taking time off from our hobbies. So instead of seeing work as being in the way or a hindrance to doing what we enjoy, it's more like we're taking a break from the things we enjoy, and then we feel more energized to do the things we really enjoy. I don't know.
Oh, yeah.
It's maybe just a mental trick, but sometimes it works.
Mm-hmm. Oh, yeah. We use that trick too for momentum. It's like, if we're really stuck in one area, building up energy and flow in another, it can sometimes be transferable. You get into active mode, and then it's easier to be active in anything we're trying to do, and we end up less stuck. Um, yeah. That's very relatable. We love that framing. Thank you for telling us.
Well, since we're almost nearing the end of the episode, and we're currently talking about life hacks
Yeah.
on momentum, how about we share some of our precious life hacks, how to build momentum or how to maintain momentum. What are your 2 cents on that?
2 cents on that is one, if you can, just start with something, like us doing this today. Definitely. I wasn't feeling it until we got going. But I'm glad we showed up and just started, because now I'm right back in it. I can do it. It's amazing. I'm very happy. And then,
And you can like note down that memory, right? Like that's what we sometimes do, is like when we feel like, oh, this has worked very well, let's take record of this, like mentally taking a note.
yes.
Or even writing in a journal and be like, remember this for the future.
Yes. Making those mental memory anchors is so helpful. Like, oh yeah, remember that works. Oh, and as far as that goes, is like, and we also kind of add a note to the memory marker or the journal entry if we're doing it physically, that remember that the energy it takes to get over the inertia hump is not the energy it's going to take to maintain the routine once it's established. It's like it's going to be harder to get started than it is going to be to maintain. So, you don't have to be afraid that you're going to have to maintain that whole level, that high level of energy it takes at the beginning the whole time. It will get easy. If we do it once, it's likely to get easier, is what we mean.
Yeah. With the little caveat, like, it may be for some people like that, and maybe for others not. Maybe some people find it easier to get started and find it really hard to maintain their momentum. I don't know.
Oh, I'm not saying long-term maintenance is easy. That's not what I'm saying.
No, didn't take it that way.
Okay, good. Just to make sure. But yes, and as always, yes, results are gonna vary. Don't think that the way that you are, audience, is wrong. No, it's the way that you are. If it doesn't jive with how we are, that's okay. We're not you. We're not trying to be you. You got to be you. So these are just things to think about. And what I find is, even if I get advice that doesn't suit me, I learn a lot about me when I contemplate why that is. So, I invite everybody to do that. I learn just as much from things I disagree with, then honestly I learn more when I disagree with someone, there's some concept or whatever, you know what I mean? So than I do when I'm in agreement, for the most part.
Mm.
This doesn't mean I'm looking for arguments, though. um just, it's an opportunity. We don't, it's just like, oh yeah, that doesn't work for me, but why, or what would work instead? That's the questions that we ask ourselves. And that leads into my second thing is, like we said earlier, it's like, go with the flow. It's like, figure out what's already happening and try and align with that, rather than trying to do stuff that's hard in the spring. I should do stuff that's easier in the spring. Start someplace that's easy and build on the wins is a thing we like to do.
Yeah. We have a very concrete example, is we noticed that we haven't been going for walks a lot lately. So at the beginning of the year, we thought, oh, we need to go outside more, touch more grass, as the kids say these days. And we thought, in January, we thought, okay, let's try to go for a walk every day. And then we're like, are you kidding me? January? Let's do that in March when the sun is actually coming out.
Yes.
I mean, it's not like we waited for March to go on a walk, but now we're actually consciously trying to build a habit of going on a daily walk, and it works so much better when the sun is out and shining.
Yes. Agreed, and it's, well, you don't give up when the flow is not going in the direction you need it to go. You put more expectation in things when the flow is going the same direction that we want to go. So yeah, that's the three things I was thinking of, is just start somewhere, go with the flow, and anchor into something outside yourselves. find some neutral territory to help with that. How about you guys?
Actually, we can only think of one thing, but it's a bit more complex. But to kind of boil it down, is what works for us very well is building systems, and like not plural systems, but systems around us, like routines and other things to streamline everything that you want to do or have to do. Um, like, wait, let me think of a concrete example. Like simple things like, or I shouldn't say simple, but things like food. Like we need food every day, right? And so to us, it's like the highest priority actually in our daily life is to how do we get food, and how do we get food every day, and how can we make it that it doesn't cost too many spoons, right? And this will vary from day to day depending on what we do. Like, do we have to go to work? Are we at home or are we somewhere else, etc., etc.? And then like building systems that streamline this in advance helps us to stay in the flow, basically. Like, because if we have to stop and think every single day, what are we going to eat and where do we get it from? That will just cut our momentum every day. Every day, if we have to halt and pause every day, it's just not working well for us. So we try to like get our basic needs basically met in such a way that it doesn't disrupt our momentum for anything else that we want to do.
Whoa, my microphone was picking up something. Sorry. There's a whole big, I don't know what noise. I didn't hear a noise, but my microphone recording there's a big noise there. So I'm worried about that. So this might be a good place to end.
Okay. Well, any last words?
Just so last thoughts on momentum are it's all personal, and it's of course going to be complicated because we're plural, and just hang in there, right? Keep trying is the main thing.
Yeah, and it's a constant struggle. Like it never ends. It's like you have inertia, you pick up momentum, you have to maintain momentum, but we are not existing in vacuum, right? There will always be friction rubbing against you in whatever form. So keeping momentum is not it's not a one time thing. It's not like you pick up momentum and that's it. So there will always be setbacks, things that stop your momentum or derail your direction. It's just life, right?
You're right.
And like
Absolutely.
right now I'm in a mood where I can say that's the fun part of life. But I know it's not always like that.
Oh, yeah, that's true. Enjoy it while it lasts, though. I mean, that's our. We do take that Buddhist stance. This too shall pass, and we remember that while we're in the middle of the good times too. We remember to observe them and to not feel like they're gonna like, oh, this is my new normal. It's like, no, this isn't. This is an up point in the wave, and growth and not giving into stagnancy means that we have to continue to wave. We have to have an ebb and flow. There has to be movement, um or we stagnate and we die. We don't want that. So we know that there has to be ups and downs because that's living. um so yeah, this too shall, the good times, yes, this too shall pass. We don't dwell on the fact that they're going to end. We actually try and observe, so we savor a little bit more. And then it's easier when we are in the troughs to go, oh yeah, remember this will pass. Even the good times pass. Of course, the bad times will too. And that sounds like a good place to wrap up for today.
Amazing.
I hope even if you can't find your momentum today, that you feel seen, to remember you're not alone. We all have these times and we all have these days, and it's okay.
Just do something.
Yeah, just do something.
That's the gist of the episode.
We believe in you. You can do something. It's okay. So, thank you for joining us. This has been Housemates for Life, and we are the Unfiltered Universe.
And this has been Matt and Will from the Voices of Jarvis.
Bye.
Goodbye. Awesome. 1, 2, 3. Oh.
Oops, sorry. Let's do that again. I didn't realize we were going to clap.
Yeah, me too. I was like, at the beginning of counting, I was like, wait, what are we doing? Oh, we do the clapping first.
Yes. Clap, clap, clap.
Test. This is a test. Hello. I'm talking into a microphone. It's been a while.
Clap, clap, clap.
Wait, I can't hear you. Wait.
Okay.
Why can I not hear you?
I do not know. Clap, clap, clap.
You're lagging for us right now a lot.
Oh, so sorry. Our connection looks good. Oh, and then it goes yellow. We're doing our best here, man. Clap, clap, clap. Hopefully enough of that came through that it's not just completely useless, so.
We will see. Editing is magic.
Editing is all came through on my end, though. You get the stuff you didn't even hear, because we recorded it. That's true, we forgot about that. The magic of technology.
Oh my gosh, the anticipation to hear what you actually said.
Oh, you flatter us too much. It's hard. It's like so weird to have people actually really interested in what we want to say.